My name is Sarah, and I'm 37 years old. I married my husband Alex last year, and we bought a house together. Alex is 10 years younger than me. Honestly, I never thought I would marry someone so much younger. When we first started dating, I thought we'd eventually break up. But before I knew it, we were planning our wedding. Even when he proposed, I asked him if he was really sure about marrying me. But Alex said, "I'll always take care of you, Sarah, so please marry me." I couldn't believe how lucky I was to be with someone so kind. However, our married life wasn't all perfect, and we didn't get a lot of time to ourselves. Alex's mom, Julia, didn't like our marriage at all. She said, "My own son, Alex, is going to leave me, his mother, for that woman." Julia didn't like that I was 10 years older than Alex. I wasn't surprised that she didn't approve, given the age difference. Then Julia gave us a condition for her approval. She told us, "You have to live with me." I thought it was unreasonable, but Julia refused to accept our marriage unless we agreed. So we agreed. At that time, Alex couldn't just ignore his mom. "You know, my mom raised me on her own," he said. I understood that he felt he owed her, since she raised him alone. I was grateful to her for that and wanted to take care of her in return. I couldn't stand in the way of the bond between Alex and his mom, so we decided to live together. I wanted Julia to see us as a normal married couple and approve of our relationship. We moved into the house we had bought, hoping things would get better with Julia. But we were wrong. "Sarah, can't you do the housework properly? What have you learned at your age? This is why I don't like women who are older than Alex." Julia's bullying got worse. Like Alex, I worked long hours, so I didn't have much time to do all the housework. I tried to explain, "I work just like Alex, so I can't do everything perfectly." But she just said, "You always argue with people older than you. You're such a bossy wife." Every time I argued back, it seemed to make her angrier, and the bullying got worse. Alex would step in and say, "Mom, stop talking to Sarah like that." He always defended me. Julia would act surprised and say, "Alex, you never used to be like this. It's all Sarah's fault you're not listening to me." She would cry and glare at me, clearly upset. "This is all your fault. I don't understand why Alex married you," she would say every time. It felt like I was living in a soap opera where the wife is always bullied by her mother-in-law. I guess Julia was upset that her son married someone much older than him, and it seemed like she enjoyed bullying me. Day by day, Julia became more spoiled and out of control. I had taken care of my grandmother before, and I had no experience with taking care of a baby, so I was struggling. "I'm sorry, Sarah," Alex would say. "It's okay. Thank you for always supporting me." I really felt bad for Alex. His own mother was bullying the woman he loved. Alex, who cared about me so much, tried many times to get Julia to move out. But I couldn't agree. I felt sorry for Julia, even though she treated me badly. I thought if I just put up with it, maybe she'd change one day. But Julia's verbal abuse didn't stop. On our first New Year's Day after we got married, we went to a relative's house. Julia, who usually never left the house, was excited to talk to everyone. She always makes excuses saying she's working, but really she doesn't do anything. And she leaves all the housework to me. Can you believe it? If this happened in our day, it wouldn't be acceptable. "I don't know what kind of common sense she has," Julia said, bad-mouthing me to everyone. I could hear her talking loudly from the kitchen. One of Alex's relatives, Emily, noticed and said, "Sarah, it seems like you're having a tough time, huh?" "Yes, well, I'm getting by," I replied. "Living with Julia isn't easy, especially with how she's acting," Emily said. "You're right," I said, without thinking. I finally admitted how I was feeling. "Why don't you talk to Susan about it?" Susan is Alex's aunt and Julia's sister. She's older and has always been kind and reliable. But would she even listen to me complaining about her own sister? I thought to myself. "Sarah?" I heard a loud voice echoing through the kitchen. Oh, it's Julia again. She always makes me go get her drinks when we run out. I sighed as I quickly went to get the beer. Julia was in the middle of talking to her relatives and seemed a little drunk. As I brought over a cold bottle of beer and a new glass, Julia grabbed it from me and said, "Sarah, you're really such a clumsy wife, aren't you?" She glared at me. Why would she say that? I thought. As I stood there, Julia poured the beer into the glass of a relative sitting next to her. "Isn't it normal to pour drinks into empty glasses? This is what you always lack, Sarah. You're so useless and poorly raised." Julia's words made everyone around feel uncomfortable, but she didn't care at all. I realized that if I got upset with Julia right now, it would just start a fight, so I decided to play it off and smiled. That's my mother-in-law. She really knows how to handle drinks. I learned so much from you, Julia. I used my usual fake smile. Julia smiled widely, clearly thinking that what she had done was impressive. She seemed satisfied now. Sarah, are you okay? It was Susan, looking at me with concern, noticing how exhausted I looked. I'm so sorry about my sister. She's always so hard to deal with, right? Oh, I know. I tried to deny it, but to be honest, I was so fed up with Julia that I couldn't lie convincingly in front of Susan. Living with Julia is tough, I admitted. It really is, Susan agreed. Julia doesn't seem to like you at all. I sighed and shared my frustration with Susan. Susan listened to everything I said and finally said, "If you ever have problems, you can always talk to me." Her kind words really moved me, as if she were like a real mother to me. Yes, I have a kind ally who will help me when things get really bad. I felt a little better, and that made it easier to get through the rest of the New Year's holiday. Thank you, and I'm really sorry for what happened, Sarah. I'm sorry about all the things my sister has said to you. Oh, it's okay. Julia was drunk, so I tried to tell myself that she just got carried away. But I was being too naive. Julia's verbal abuse didn't stop, and any attempt to argue back made things worse. Alex's relatives like to hold family events, and they usually get together whenever they can. Julia would always force me to go and help out every single time. Alex would tell me that I didn't have to go if I was busy, but Julia would insist, and every time, I end up getting verbally abused by Julia. Sarah, don't get all high and mighty just because you have a job. A wife should always stay behind her husband and quietly support him. You think you're equal to Alex, but he's a better man than you. You don't understand anything, she would say. Julia would publicly humiliate me in front of the relatives again. What's wrong with me working? What's wrong with being at the same level as Alex? Alex tried to warn Julia many times, but I felt so awkward being the center of attention at these lively gatherings. All I could do was sit in silence and listen to Julia's cruel words. Then one day, Julia said something so hurtful that I knew I couldn't live with her anymore. It was during another family gathering, and as usual, Julia was being verbally abusive to make herself feel better. What on earth does Alex see in Sarah? I should have never let him marry her. Julia said while drinking with the relatives. She can't even have kids, so what's the point of them getting married? Don't you think so? She asked in a snarky tone, trying to get others to agree with her. I felt like the air went cold. Alex's hand, holding his drink, began to shake, and I dropped the tray I was holding onto the floor. What did you just say, Mom? Alex asked quietly, trying to hold back his anger. What do you mean? I just said that if she can't have kids, what's the point of your marriage? I mean, isn't it true? A 37-year-old woman is practically giving up on having kids, right? I was against the marriage because of that, but you wouldn't listen to me. It's too late to regret now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Alex and I definitely wanted children. Sure, I was almost 40, so my chances of getting pregnant were slim, but I still wanted his child. I had just started going through fertility treatments, but I hadn't told Julia about it. I knew if I did, she would just criticize me even more. Sarah, let's get this straight once and for all. If you don't want kids, then you should just divorce Alex. He's still young, so he can start over whenever he wants, okay? That's when something inside me broke. The patience I had built up all this time snapped with those words. Kids and divorce. You really hate me, don't you, Julia? Yeah, I do hate you. I hate you so much, Julia said with a smile, looking at me. Okay then, well, if that's how you feel, we're not living together anymore. Could you please leave my house, Julia? What are you talking about? You're crazy. You're joking in front of my relatives, and it's ridiculous. I'm not joking. You can't stay in our house anymore, I said firmly. The atmosphere shifted immediately, and all the relatives quickly stepped back. What are you talking about? Well, if you hate me so much, why are you still living in our house? You have no right to make me leave. Oh yes, I do. This house is mine. It's up to me whether I let you stay or kick you out, Julia. Julia looked completely shocked. Wait a minute, Alex. What is all this about? Julia asked Alex for help. Mom, I've told you so many times, haven't I? Don't treat Sarah like that, Alex said coldly. I told you Sarah built this house on her own, didn't I? Why can't you remember something so simple? Because usually it's the husband who builds the house, right? Julia always believed that it was the husband's job to build a house and provide for the family. Alex sighed and said, I didn't want to move in with you, Mom, but Sarah insisted on having you live with us, so I went along with it. But enough is enough. If you keep making fun of my wife, even if you're my own mother, I won't stand for it. Julia, with tears in her eyes, argued, Excuse me? No way. You're joking, right, Alex? Aren't you on my side? Your side? I'm more like your enemy now, Mom. I can't believe you're my own mother, and you're treating my beloved wife like this. Oh, Alex, why? Julia burst into tears, trying to hold on to Alex, but it was already too late. I'm sorry, but please pack your things by the end of this week, I said. Julia looked at me, defeated. No way. Sarah, please wait. I'm sorry for everything I've done. Let's just live together happily again, okay? She pleaded, acting like nothing had happened. I can't do that. I can't live with someone who doesn't appreciate anything. No, please. I want to continue living with you both. Julia begged. No, please stay away from me and get out of my house as soon as possible. I am the one in charge here, I said with no hesitation. Mom, this is how it is. Get ready to leave. We won't be helping you anymore. Julia heard her son and daughter-in-law demand she leave the house, right in front of everyone. A few people felt sorry for her, but most knew exactly how she had been treating us. Good job, Sarah, said one of the relatives. Thank you, I replied. It was Alex's Aunt Susan who came over next. Actually, this whole idea was mine. We needed to teach my sister a lesson. Sarah, you did a great job. Alex, you need to protect your wife, Susan said. Aunt Susan, thank you for helping me protect Sarah, Alex said. Susan and I had been talking a lot. Whenever I couldn't take Julia's abuse anymore, I would talk to Susan. She always gave me kind support. But won't it cause you trouble, Susan, from now on? I asked. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll be keeping an eye on Julia from now on. You two just focus on your life, she reassured me. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, I said. We told Julia she had to leave, and Susan was the one who firmly made Julia leave, even though she resisted. You did this to yourself. Think about everything you've said and how you hurt people, Helen said. Susan came to pick up Julia, and that was the last time she was in our home. Apparently, Julia went to Susan several times after that, asking if she could convince us to take her back. But Susan just shouted at her, Enough. Think about how they feel. They don't want anything to do with you anymore. Julia cried like a child and bitterly said, That woman brainwashed my son and took him away from me. After Julia was kicked out, she started living on her own. I don't know where she went, but I don't need to know. We also moved out of our home. Alex had just been transferred for work, and I had also submitted my own transfer request. The house had been built with my parents' inheritance, so there was no mortgage and it was easy to sell. We made a profit from the sale, which made life a little easier. If Julia ever visited our old home, she'd probably feel lonely and hopeless. We knew this, so we chose to part ways. Sarah, I'm home. Welcome home, honey. I greeted Alex at the door, holding my big stomach. I'm excited for our baby. I'm finally going to be a dad. I'm counting on you, sweetie. Soon we'll be parents. Alex is determined to protect me, even if it means cutting ties with his own mother. No matter what happens, we'll get through it as a couple. I'm so glad I married him. I truly believe that with all my heart.